One of the things that I really love about communists is the fact that they took censorship and not only perfected it, but turned it into an absolute art form. They managed to oppress the individual to the point where he was terrified of speaking out, even amongst his own family members. People lived in constant fear, in constant dread, in constant terror that they might say something which is misinterpreted and might get them fired, might get them kicked out of the house, or in the worst case, might even get them locked up. So how did they do it? A country of around 20 million people, which is Romania, how did the government manage to inject this fear into each and every single citizen? Because if you think about it, the government does simply not have the resources to listen in, to make sure that the people are complying. So they managed to do this in very interesting ways. The first type of censorship is obviously the direct one. Like if you are heard by a party member or a police officer that you're saying something against communism, then you get punished, right? So it's direct. But again, like how many people are going to open their mouth next to a cop? So they moved over to indirect censorship, where they had paid informants. So if you were a person that provided useful information to the secret police that your neighbor said this or that, then you would get rewarded. Either that in monetary compensation, or there was a kiosk that would sell Coca-Cola, Camel, and all of these things that weren't available on the market. So while everyone else was poor and starving, well, now because you've ratted on your neighbor, you get access to stuff that's not on the market, or maybe they can put in a good word at your workplace. They also used children. Children were very good at sometimes talking casually about things that they didn't know is not okay to talk about. And you'd have like the secret police going around in kids' playgrounds and just interrogating kids, just asking them, you know, what do your parents think about communism? How does your mother view the dictator? And so on and so forth. Or, you know, kids would say something at school. Again, kids were very useful in finding out parents who aren't complying. But at the end of the day, the problem remains the same. The government did not have enough people to thought police everyone. So what they wanted to make sure is that people who aren't affiliated with the government police themselves and censor themselves. So the first way was to instill the fear of the government into the mind of every person, that everything they say can be heard. But it also was to make sure that every single person speaks out when they hear someone talk about something negative. So how would this work? Let's assume that they catch you with a traffic violation, or they catch you actually saying some anti-communist propaganda. Usually the secret police would come up to you if it wasn't very serious, and they would say, look, we can either get you fired or we can make this go away. And you would ask, like, how can we make this go away? Well, you go to your workplace tomorrow and you repeat what you said in front of everyone. So the person would go at the workplace and they would say something like, you know, I have an uncle which escaped to the United States, and he is saying there that they have hot water 24/7, that the television has multiple channels and is broadcasting 24/7, and overall life in America is a lot better than in our communist country. Every single person that heard that was compelled to go and report the guy. And if one person wouldn't report the guy, then he was a problem maker. Why didn't he report it? He wasn't a good communist. He wasn't a good citizen. You would get punished if you heard someone talk about anti-communist things and you didn't report it. And I think like that's the art of censorship. Like that is the last step. It's very similar to what Reddit is doing right now, where if someone posts something that is against the terms of service and you like that post, you click the thumbs up, your account gets banned as well. You know, it's kind of similar, but it's getting there. It's not there quite yet. But who is there quite yet is a university from Syracuse, which is now going to start punishing students who witness bias-motivated incidents and do not act. This is the full transition. And the reason I chose this article is because I remember Tim Pool a couple of months ago. He was showing this Romanian professor, which got tenure at the university. And the reason he left is because, according to him, it was starting to look like the same communism that he fled from. He was forced to give awards against what his better judgment was. The dean was saying, no, you are not supposed to give an award to a white person. You need to give the award either to a person of color or a person that's from the LGBT spectrum. We don't need any more people like you, straight white men. They were flat out saying it. And he felt like he was policed, like he couldn't say what he thinks. He wasn't able to do his job accordingly. And that's why he left. And Tim Pool didn't believe that. Like he didn't believe that video. He thought it's fake because the video was in Romanian. It's from a Romanian television network. And even the woman taking the interview is unable to believe that. Because again, for our perspective, it's like America, right? America, democracy, Western, civilization, you know, and like, what does this have to do with communism, especially at the university, a place of learning? So, look at this, okay? A string of racist incidents took place at Syracuse University. I find it really bizarre. Like, at the most hyper liberal places in the United States, you still have racism. And like, all of this censorship that they have, all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they throw at their diversity departments, you know, with everything that they do, they still have racism. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Like, maybe they are incapable of dealing with it. Maybe they should let a right-winger in charge a little bit to see maybe, you know, someone can have a different way of fixing the problem. Because, like, I find it bizarre. This is something else that really bothers me, you know? Like, you constantly have your rights taken away. Like, the right to speak your mind, the right to behave in whatever way you want. No, like, that's not okay. And instead, they promise you safety. Like, look, all you have to do is to allow us to police your thoughts, and there's not going to be any more racism. And when there's racism, they don't apologize for, you know, restricting your thoughts and, like, doing all of these authoritarian measures that do not seem to work. No, they just gloss over it. But anyway, you know, like, that's neither here nor there. Like, the school first diversity and inclusion officer. I love how they call it officer, like it's some military thing. Just call them commissars if you want to do it. But luckily, look at this. The officer didn't accept expulsion as a punishment for people who see racism but don't speak out. But he did say that the campus rules will be changed to punish student bystanders. So in other words, no, like, let me get this straight. If I see a motherfucking gorilla, you know, like this muscular man, like this guy, that when he punches, he does AoE damage. Like, if he punches a guy next to me, I end up in a hospital as well, even though I didn't take the direct punch. You know, and I see him saying a joke from South Park. You're telling me that if I don't speak out and I don't go up to that guy, I'm going to be in trouble, eh? And it is like the way that they are thinking is sublime in how they just do not care about the individual. Like, I love this leftist way of thinking. It is just so beautiful in its brutality and in the abolition of humanity. It's just like, man, I couldn't do it. You know, that's why I admire it. Like, you have to be some sort of person that just looks at people like they're percentages on a piece of paper. And how can you create the perfect world by restricting their rights further and further? You know, like, now if you see someone, I guess, making a South Park joke, you're not allowed to just allow that. You know, and even if it's something that is not even a joke, like, let's say it's just someone quoting Shakespeare, like that British anchor did in the United Kingdom. He quoted Shakespeare to a black person and he got fired, even though it was proven that he quoted Shakespeare to other white people. Like, it was a quote that he liked, whatever. But if you see someone doing that on a university, even if you find it now that it's okay and it's acceptable, you still have to act, because, like, you don't know. What if it will be perceived as a racist thing and now you get in trouble? You know, it's collective punishment. It is just so beautiful. Like, man, you know, like, right-wingers, I don't think they're capable of this level of authoritarianism. I see. No, seriously. Like throughout history, there have been empires. I don't think they're able to come up with such a system. And think about it this way. Now it's at the micro scale, right? Like it's just at a university. It's in a small place. Imagine if these people would actually gain in power, and there wouldn't be a constitution. But like I think that's what they want. They want to create these race warriors that go around, they start doing activism, so eventually they change the entire culture of the nation, because all of the people that go through that university, they're going to internalize that this is normal, and when they go out, they're going to vote for people, eventually they're going to gain in positions of power, and that's how you change the culture. That's what they're doing. It's just wow. But let me tell you what their priorities are, and I notice this with the left all the time. Like, they don't care about crimes anymore. Did you notice that? Like, according to this, if you are on campus and you see a theft committing, or, like some violence or whatever, like some guy punches another guy, the rules do not force you to act. Like, they do not force you to speak out. But if you see someone saying a South Park joke and you don't speak out, you get punished. Like, a South Park joke is now above actual crimes. Just so you can understand, like, so you can wrap your brain around this beautiful utopia that they're trying to create. And they say, like, how silence or inaction will be judged. Prompt many to guarantee compliance by speaking or acting to avoid even the chance that they might be subject to a highly damaging bias charge. Isn't the left that constantly says that silence is not consent? Like, unless the woman says yes, then it doesn't count. Like, even if she says maybe, or her body language, like she's already taking off her bra and she's taking her underwear, like, unless she says yes, nothing else matters. So they constantly say, like, silence is not consent, but here they're saying the opposite. Which one is it? Which one is it? Jesus. You know why leftist memes are like a bundle of text? Because the left has gone so far away from the reality that they need to make sure that you're understanding and you're interpreting exactly what they want you to interpret. So the bundle of text from the memes that they're spreading is so that they create the proper context, the proper connotation, so they, like, it builds the house of cards so you kind of get what they're wanting to say. So, and by the way, like, this is even microaggressive language. Like, on paper, when you say, well, students will speak out against racism, they change the definition. It's not what you think, all right? Like, lately, I have seen Pepsi, the company, accusing Tucker Carlson of being racist for mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name. Like, anything is now interpreted. Like, the definition is so loose that if you were to take a gay person and put him in a prison, his asshole wouldn't be as big as the definition of racism is nowadays. Look at this. What is viewed as bias-motivated speech for some is viewed as political speech by others. The new rule will suggest that even students who do not agree that an incident is bias-motivated must still act to avoid scrutiny or punishment. That's the point. This is censorship at its peak. The art form that has been perfected by the communists. Like, maybe they will take it to new levels, new heights that we have never seen before. I mean, now they even have technology. Now they even have cell phones, and they have, everyone that goes on a computer, everything you say gets logged. So, I mean, they can go way beyond where the communists have left off. Students could feel an obligation to prove that they are not racist by immediately and openly opposing such acts, lest they could be next to be accused. The punishment of those who do not act is a form of compelled speech, as it would now require speech and action to avoid possible discipline. And again, like, I hate being enforcer for some authoritarian twat. Like, if the university wants to police students on campus, that's their job. Fine. But they're not paying me to enforce their bullshit. They're not paying me. Like, this is slave labor. Like, you're basically forcing people to do something that normally should be paid. Right? Like, going around and policing others is a full-time job. I mean, right? Like, you hire people to do that. But I guess, like, now it saves costs, doesn't it? The only other incident where we saw a potential outcome is of a white supremacist document allegedly sent to students while in a campus library. How many of these things have... Oh, yeah. Apparently, this also turned out to be a hoax. Like, you're incentivizing hoaxes, because what ends up happening is the person who claims that they discovered the hoax or that the hoax was aimed at them, Now they get a podium. They get to talk. Like they get to bully the dean of the university. You know, when you create this environment that's not natural, like you artificially created this environment, it's going to work by different rules. Because normally, right, like normally people would ask, well, V, if you say that someone harassed you on the internet, what do you have to gain from it? And I agree, you know, I wouldn't have anything to gain from it. But if I was at the university and I had the right skin color and then I claim someone harassed me and I provide something, and now all the students are hovering and gravitating around me and my story and they're all interested, you know, there are people who actually like that type of attention and the spotlight. Let me know what you think. And yeah, don't send your kids to these universities. That's my advice. You know, just med school, law school, and trade school. That should be like the three options. Or send them to a place where they can learn how to code. But that's pretty much it. Like, don't send them to become race warriors. Like, it's a waste of money. And you're going to find your kid getting arrested. You know, like they go to a Kavanaugh hearing and they start bashing at the doors. And it's like the people in there go like, oh, Sergeant of Arms, restore order to the gallery. Like, yeah. Every time they say that, someone got arrested. Imagine having, you know, your life savings go to provide an education for your kid, and then you find out that they got in conflict with the law and they have to spend some time in jail. Horrible. Why would you wish that upon one? Just don't send them to these universities. You know what? Send them to Eastern Europe if you have a little bit of brain. I'm not kidding. It's probably cheaper. Seriously, it's probably cheaper to send them to Eastern Europe. Everyone here speaks English. We have universities with English courses. And not only that, but like if they get a diploma in Eastern Europe, it's recognized in the entire European Union, right? So if you get a diploma in Romania, you can go and work with it in Germany. And for example, if you do med school in Romania, you can work anywhere you want within the European Union, and then you have to get a step exam. It's what it's called. It's not that hard if you're an English-speaking person. And then you can just move to the United States and practice your craft there. Very simple, very easy. Stop funding these places. Do what I suggest. You're going to thank me for it.